So agenda is in the chat if you don't already have it. So check that out. We are going to start off with, let's see if we have the right people here. Okay, so Tara's here. Perfect. I don't see, there's Sam. Okay, so I see at least a couple people. We're going to start by checking in with the Aspen kind of partner community group. I know that last month we kind of left off with not really having like a concrete decision of when those meetings were going to be. And we were thinking of like maybe regrouping towards like the beginning of the year, January. So did you have like a clear date and time in mind yet, Tara or Sam? If any of you want to speak to that.
Well, I see that you've got Tuesdays at 11, which sounds good. I think, yeah, our poll, it seemed like Tuesday or Thursday were most popular, and sometime like 9, 10, 11 seemed to be the most popular times. So
yeah, because we checked the poll results, so thank you again for sending that out. And that was just kind of the time that we figured we would propose, if that works for y'all.
sounds good to me. I don't know if
Okay.
anyone else has different ideas, can speak up.
So if anyone doesn't know what we're talking about, let me just explain really quick. So there is going to be a separate meeting for, is that what we're calling it? The Aspen Community Group? Yeah. I mean, if you want to call yourselves like the super awesome Aspen Library ambassadors or something, like you can totally do that. But yeah, so it's basically just a group it's for you. It's for the library partners to get together and talk about what is important to you as far as developments or any issues that you want to kind of get on the Bywater radar. And a Bywater Aspen representative will be attending these meetings as well, just so that we can have representation and answer any questions you have. So if you are interested in participating in that, it looks like the meetings are going to start, well, I don't know exactly when, but they'll be Tuesday mornings at 11 a.m. Eastern, trying to fit in the West Coast folks who might want to come. And who should they reach out to if they're interested in more information or wanting to join?
We can always do what we did last time and set up one of our Zoom meetings so that we have a place to host it. That completely works, and we can send out announcements. Eventually, it'd be great if we had somebody in the community that wants to be the contact person for that. But in terms of just making sure we get the next meeting set up, we can take ownership of that. Unless somebody wants to. If somebody else wants to, by all means, speak now.
No, but you're going to send out an email about this, right? Okay,
yes.
Good.
I don't know if we want to decide their frequency now. About how often would you like to meet for these meetings?
I remember right from the poll, it was overwhelmingly every other month, and swapping out with the gatherings, possibly.
So I think we thought that we'd have enough content at the gatherings that we didn't want to have this take the place of it. But what if we said, like, if we're doing the gatherings the first Tuesday of every month, what if we did these the third, or sorry, we'll do the first Thursday of every month. If we did these the third Tuesday of every other month, would that work for everybody? Show of hands. Or we will just make it so.
Just to clarify, we're talking about not moving the time of the Aspen gathering. That'll still be the first Thursday. But the Aspen community group, the library partners, meeting the third Tuesday of every other month.
Yeah. Start that in January. I saw at least 4 thumbs up, which to me is like consensus.
Yeah.
5 thumbs up. Whoa.
All right.
Yeah, that's definitely legally binding. So.
Okay, cool. So we are making a note of that in the agenda, and we will be sure to send out more an email with more information and a Zoom link and all that good stuff. So please attend. We would love to hear more of your voices and get you all talking to each other and organizing things. It would be super amazing. So
Morgan,
Uh,
could we skip to number 3 just so we could just talk about schedule altogether
Yeah.
now, if that makes
that
sense?
sounds good. Yeah. Do
Okay.
it.
So one of the reasons why we really wanted to drill down those meetings today is something that we would like to release for the community and our partners for 2022 is a schedule so that you guys have a calendar, you can print it. If you're using it digitally, it would include the Zoom links to the meetings. It would have all the dates, the times. Like we would like to do it ideally for the whole year. If we can do that, we're going to meet tomorrow more about it, but we wanted to talk to you guys about it today. But this would have the community meeting on it. It would have the Aspen gathering on it. And then you could follow those links also be afterwards because we update them with the recordings. So it would just be like a really great resource and tool. It's something that we would give new partners when they join so that they can just jump right in. Does anyone have any like comments? We thought maybe on the calendar we could include, links to resources again. Just try to give you like one PDF that has like everything that you guys would need for the community. And with this, we were proposing also this would be a release calendar. So you would know every release, the date for the tests like we're doing now is like a few days before, and then we would also have the date when the release would be on all the production sites. Any thoughts, feelings, opinions on that?
I really like the idea of a schedule. I was kind of blindsided by the last update, and that was a bit of my fault. But any forewarning is always good with me. I get a lot of spam, a lot of emails, so getting through those and trying to find the notifications can be kind of difficult.
Awesome. So with that, there would be some like slight changes to how we've been doing things. So we've talked about this a little bit over the last few meetings about doing like one major monthly release on a schedule, and then any like patches or other like things that we would push out would be like in small, like could still happen throughout the month. So like for January, we just have proposed dates of, so the first Thursday of the month we would do the gathering. And what we would like to do is we have the little Aspen updates in an instant. We would like to roll that into the first 15 minutes of the Aspen gathering. So it's just one meeting. At the beginning, we go over the new release. So then that night, that Thursday, that first Thursday of the month after, the release would go out onto the test and anybody in implementation. Then that next Wednesday, Mark, Tuesday night, the next Tuesday night following that would be when it goes out to everyone. This way, everything's pretty condensed, and we can schedule out those dates reasonably like a whole year ahead of time so that everyone has it. Good thoughts. I think the only other thing we looked at was just the actual time of the Aspen gathering, because that would be like a release day for some people and things. We were proposing that we would move this meeting up into 2 p.m. Eastern, so it would just be 2 hours sooner. Still on Thursdays. Again, it would be Aspen gathering and the Aspen updates in an instant all in one. Sounds good. We wanted to propose it to you all first, but tomorrow we're going to sit down and get all those dates. I'm going to make it pretty and we're going to set up all those Zooms, and then we will send it out to you all.
Well, I'm really excited for the calendar. I think it's going to be an amazing resource for everyone. Be a lot easier to keep track of when things are happening. So excellent. Okay. Are there any other questions or comments about that or ideas? Okay. So I'm gonna skip back to number 2 on the agenda because we wanted to talk a little bit more about documentation. Recently, we've been meeting with some of the international Aspen support partners. So PTFS Europe and KnowledgeWare in Saudi Arabia and some other companies that are offering Aspen in their markets. So they have expressed kind of needs for documentation on more of the development side and such. And one of the projects that I've been trying to work on is documentation more for you all, like the libraries, people who are going to be administering Aspen kind of on an ongoing basis, not just during implementation, but indefinitely. Right now, the only thing, I mean, we do have our website, which has a lot of videos and other resources, Aspen Weekly, all that good stuff. And then as far as on your Aspen sites, you have the help manual, which if you've taken a look at that, it's kind of the setting by setting, like this is what this is what this does. And we felt like there was also a need for kind of more task or goal oriented help stuff out there. Like, how do I add an administrative user? How do I do this? Like all that kind of stuff. So I want to give you a preview of kind of what we've been building out. It's on our Aspen test site, and it is not all of the content is up because I realized as I was starting to mess with the layouts of things that if we wanted to drastically change how things looked, it would just be a lot more work. And so I've been writing more of the content in Evernote, and then we wanted to get your feedback before we really progressed. So let me get there and I can kind of give you all a peek. And I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Ooh, and Chanel's already putting some ideas in the chat. I love that. Okay. So this is on our Aspen test site. Anyone should be able to get here with this URL. So it's just aspen-test.bywatersolutions.com/help. We had the idea to build it out in Aspen with the hope that perhaps some of you might want to contribute in the future. But basically, let me give you a little tour of what we were thinking. So there's just kind of separated into these, general categories of what you might be more involved in. Like user experience is about patron accounts, ratings, and all the things that they do, promoting your resources. So different things about browse categories, placards, collection spotlights. Just some of these up here are the ones that I actually started to load some content into. So it's, yeah, this was one of the reasons why I was really pushing for the web builder upgrade so that we could do more fancy stuff with the web builder for the Help Center. And we really wanted to add more visual things like, animated GIFs to show certain actions and screenshots. And at the end, linking any video tutorials that we had associated with that as well. But I guess first, maybe we want your thoughts about, do you like the idea of it being in Aspen, like in a either accessible on your own sites or in a central kind of Aspen Help Center site? What are your thoughts? And you can type in the chat or raise your hand.
I think this is fantastic. Fantastic here. Good work.
It's a lot, and I am by no means near done because I've been trying to tackle this with all the other implementation stuff. So before we talk about the next part, are there any other comments or ideas?
In cases where there might have to be actions performed on the server, I realize that, a lot of us here are your clients and you're doing that for us, but there are a few partners and others that probably need to know that kind of stuff. Do you have intentions to document out kind of the server side stuff that needs to happen? Like, for example, we're going to enable web builder and we need to do this now, the back end, that kind of stuff.
Let Mark speak to some of that.
Yeah, I think the goal is to have everything so that people can self-support. and generally the goal is like, if you're doing web builder, you shouldn't need to do anything on the server. So hopefully we're minimizing those things as well. And I know we've got at least one ticket open on looking into that, but yeah, the goal is to avoid that and also make it easy for people that need to do it. That may or may not be in this help document. We'll see.
Yeah, and like, oh, go ahead, Tara.
Well, I was just gonna, this might be a dumb question, but we aren't actually using Web Builder yet, and I was curious if this is using Web Builder, will we also be able to kind of hide some of the things based on permissions for things that people can't do or that we don't give them access to do?
Thought of that yet. Huh.
I like seeing your animated emojis
Oh, the
as
little,
we say something and then
We have talked about roles and permissions for different levels of documentation. I think probably to start, you would be assigning it to the roles in Aspen and saying this role either has permission to view the documentation or not. But then as kind of a next level, we could definitely talk about assigning roles per kind of area of documentation, or maybe even attaching roles to permissions. So if they have permission to use Web Builder, then they're also going to see that help documentation.
Just wanted to, like, we don't provide access to say like the JavaScript widget because that could just be a big old nightmare for us to deal with across 100 libraries. So it's, you know, sometimes people will stumble on that and ask about it, and I'm like, oh, that doesn't do what you think it does, and it usually never does. But yeah. Anyway, just curious.
Another, since this is kind of the centralized help center, another idea as we work on some of the sharing. So right now, this centralized help documentation that's open to everyone, you don't have to log in. But as we work on some of the sharing of content where we would be able to say like upload, download content, potentially that's something where you could say like, hey, I would just like to copy the help center documentation down to my local Aspen install. And then you could go through and set whatever permissions on it you wanted, or delete a page if you didn't want somebody to see that it was there. It's hard to do with open documentation. You'd have to think more. But yeah, like Jordan says, some of those permissions.
I think that could be like in the direction of a good workaround. Yeah, because the intention of this is for all of it to be, you know, available to everyone in the community on like a centralized site. Mark, were you thinking of having this on like whatever the new domain would be?
Yeah, we're looking at, so right now a lot of people are using something.aspendiscovery.org as their catalog. So we'll probably just move this from being on aspentest.bywater.solutions to just aspendiscovery.org so that you can kind of see it there. And it's a nice clean URL to go to.
Yeah. One of the other things that, you know, is we're considering, or well, we need it to happen before we launch it to everyone, is getting custom pages in the web builder to be indexable. That way you'll be able to essentially use Aspen to search through the help content. So with that will come benefits for everyone because the custom pages on your own sites will be also searchable. So that's pretty exciting stuff. I guess in the same vein, we were curious to find out what kind of documentation you have been making for your own library staff, like any internal documentation you've made for using Aspen. Because I know that a lot of that has happened on the Koha side, but has anyone done anything like that for your libraries?
We have made a ton of documentation, which we could, which is only, we have kind of blacked on the members only permissions, but we could share that with, find a way to share that with y'all if you'd be interested.
That would be awesome.
I created in Publisher and then exported the PDF documentation on a bunch of the things that people with special permissions can do on the admin side. So, browse categories and system messages and, all that stuff.
Yeah, if you would be willing to share any of that, because I know you've shared some of the things you've created with us in the past, Janelle. But yeah, if you're willing to share that out with the community, we could, try to incorporate some of these things into the Help Center content.
Would the publisher documents or the PDF documents be better?
Maybe the PDF is like, if it's the kind where I can copy the text from it.
Well,
I
it's just,
don't-
I don't know. I just exported it to PDF. So I mean, it's just a PDF.
Yeah, that's probably fine. Yeah.
And where do you want me to put that?
I'm gonna drop my email address in the chat. Because we don't have a fancy like sharing center right now. So if you have any documentation that you've created for your staff that you would like to share out to the community, you can email me. I'd put my email address in the chat. And that would be awesome. Anyone else? Has anyone else made something really cool for their staff, even if it's just like a simple cheat sheet or something you've made for yourself?
I don't know if this is what you're looking for, but we've created documentation for the systems team for like a number of years, but it's on the systems team private GitHub page, right? So we have many markdown documents of how to do things that I think they're very specific to us. They're not like user land staff training things for the most part. But we have that stuff and we're definitely willing to share that stuff with other folks or anyone, unless there's secrets or something in it that we might have to edit it first, but
Yeah, we don't need secrets necessarily. So, I mean, I guess that, and I don't know, I'm not a systems person, but I'm thinking, I wonder if that would be useful in case we had other self-hosted Aspen sites that might be interested. What do you think, Mark?
Yeah, yeah, probably. And when you say system side, Brian, are you talking more of the like specific server, log on to the server, run these commands to upload or to update things, or is it?
yeah, some of it is that kind of stuff. Some of it is directly manipulating the database in ways that I don't know if you necessarily want people to do, but we have done historically here from, for years. Things
I probably
like
want to cover my ears and not know about those things.
I mean, I'm trying to think, like sometimes like we toggle holds for multiple branches on and off, by, manipulating the database through SQL. Like, I don't know. We do that at the beginning, at the end of the school year. I mean, people have asked questions in Aspen Slack, or like, how do I do this? And I'm like, well, we have a documentation on how to do that. But, part of my thoughts, I was like, well, I don't know if the way that we do it is the way that Bywater wants you to do it, or if that's the preferred way to do it anymore. But I could definitely, share that stuff. Or I can actually even share like, okay, these are all the files that we have that we have in the Aspen folder, in our documentation repo.
Yeah, I think it'd be worth at least looking through them. So, and some of those like SQL commands, like we can look at, and there's maybe, so like you could use the batch edit functionality now that didn't exist years ago.
Definitely.
But yeah, and some of that's the knowing the tasks that are important, and then we can have the documentation around that. Or maybe it's a feature request. Cool.
Well, thanks, Brian.
And one other, so part of the purpose, and I think Morgan said this earlier, but if not, I'll repeat. Part of the goal of having it on the in web builder is hopefully to encourage more community participation, kind of lower the barrier to entry from GitHub. So definitely if people are interested in contributing, we can work on getting you an account that has kind of those web builder permissions so that we can let the community help build all of that documentation out.
That would be amazing. It's not in its final iteration by any means, because like I said, we still need the indexing. And there's probably going to be, there's going to need to be some level of, checks and balances, like being able to see who has edited and contributed to a page more clearly, and, having some level like of approval, like, so that you can't just go in there and decide to go on a tirade. And I mean, none of you would do that, but you know what I mean? So there can be some bywater level of just editing, making sure there's no typos and making sure it's formatted and all that good stuff. But yeah, if you are interested in contributing in the future, please reach out to us. We would love to get you involved. Are there any other questions or suggestions about documentation in general that you'd like to discuss? All right. Cool. Well, I'm glad that you like what you see so far. That has greatly inspired me to continue. Like I would anyway, but it's given me more drive. All right. So the next on the agenda. Oh, I guess we're going down to number 4 for Jordan. Yeah.
Yep. So the first thing I want to say as part of kind of the roadmap review section is thank you to all of you that submitted the survey responses. We got quite a few responses with lots of really good information. I've been dipping in and poking around at it to get a little bit of data, but we are going to try to have something more formal together that we can share with all of you so you can see the results of those survey. I would imagine that would be at the next Aspen gathering if you're looking for that. But for now, I will go ahead and share so that we can see the roadmap. Okay, so this is the roadmap as we're planning right now. Just a reminder, this is in kind of flux in terms of what software we're going to use. Right now you're seeing monday.com, but I can't share this with all of you. We are still investigating tools. Right now we're looking at, and we want tools that kind of would merge ticketing with this roadmap planning. Right now we're looking at Jira and Open Project. So I'll go ahead and throw it out there if anybody has opinions on either of those. Strong, negative, positive, whatever you have, you can email them to me, and I'm Jordan at bywatersolutions.com, or, and people have strong opinions. So if you have any ideas, that's the kind of thing we're looking for, though, something that's that comprehensive in terms of being able to plan and do bugs and tickets and do all of that. So, okay, with no further ado, let's talk about the roadmap as it is today. So this is what we just released as part of 21.15. So I'm going to be going over the past release just to make sure everyone can kind of see what we did. We can talk a little bit if there are extra big things that we added, or if maybe there are things that got switched around during the release, because things change as the release goes on. So let's start with the first one, patron registration. We did get that done for Symphony. So our Symphony libraries that didn't have patron self-registration, we are good now. We still have a little bit more to do with Polaris. So you can see patron self-registration part 2, Polaris down there at the bottom. So that was one that we had to split up a little bit. If you went to Aspen Updates in an Instant, you did see the Overdrive API updates that we made. This is that new kind of pop-up that we have that kind of helps users use Overdrive just a little bit better. There is just a little known issue with that for getting supplemental materials from Overdrive. So we have notified Overdrive about that, and we're talking to them about that. Next, that just came out in the release is the donation support. So I don't need to go into this because we have a lovely Aspen Weekly that also came out today that explains how donation support works in detail. So that's wonderful. I goofed a little bit in our last time we were talking about roadmap. I said we were doing the 2-factor authentication or the SSO this time. We were actually just talking about it last time. We had some meetings with libraries. That actual work will be happening in the first release of 2022. And then the work that you saw in the updates in an instant, and it was last week's, oh my gosh, word blank in my head, our newsletter, our Aspen Weekly, the dismissible browse categories, and then the ability to add those lists and save searches to the library homepage. So this is all the personalization stuff for those browse categories for your patrons. So that was last time. And we did a pretty good job with going according to plan. We're pretty happy with that. Here is the next release, the first release of 2022. As most of you know, we are getting into an evergreen implementation. This is for Porter County. One of our current partners is moving to Evergreen as their ILS, and Amherst has joined us. So we'll be doing an evergreen implementation. As I already said, patron self-registration part 2 and the 2-factor authentication. Curbside pickup support. This is specifically for our Koha libraries. For those of you that don't know, Koha has its own curbside module within the ILS, but for libraries that are using Aspen Discovery, there's no way to actually take advantage of that. So we do have this here. We will be working on that for the Koha module. Looking at the survey responses, because I did take a peek in there, this isn't very high for non-Koha libraries. So I think this will probably be all likely, we can always keep talking about it, but likely all we'll do for curbside since it already exists in Koha, and we just need the discovery portion. But we'll see as time goes on if that's something we want to change and do. This next one relates to what Morgan was talking about, the searchable help documentation, and really this is searching those custom web builder pages. So even though it says searchable help documentation, because that's why we're doing it, there are going to be lots of other advantages to that. And even just out of the conversation today and conversations we've had in the past few weeks, I can hear more about ways that web builder might be getting better because of help documentation. So things like maybe editing levels. So if you think about the ability for maybe your staff to create pages and then having an editor role that could go in and maybe approve those. Or we've also talked about templates is another thing that came up in the survey, as well as has come up as part of documentation. Hey, it'd be great if we had a documentation template, because I know Morgan has to do a whole bunch of extra work to make those documentation pages look really good. But the searching is what's going to be happening next month. As far as planning, we'll be planning to make LIDA available for individual library partners. So as you all know right now, if you're using LIDA, the app, you have to go in and then select your library. This would be to have a library branded app. This is because it takes a little bit more support on our side because we're supporting everybody individually. There would be an additional cost for this. And I know that those of you that were interested said so on our on the survey, and I think I'm neglecting getting those names to Bill. So it's not on Bill that he hasn't reached out to talk to you about that. That would be on us. But the app that's out there right now, that will always be free. So I just want to make sure everybody knows you always get an app. It's just if you want that individually branded one, and a lot of libraries do, as we know from the survey. So we'll be working on planning for that. We'll probably also be talking about planning for sharing Aspen templates and content. I did see that there was quite a bit of support for this within the survey, and we've been talking about it a lot, so we will start planning that. We still have the binge pass titles for Hoopla. We did get an email from them this week. It's not a lot of work. We don't think so that it might be here. It might get squeezed into a point release. We'll see. And then, of course, like I already mentioned, reviewing the survey results and prioritizing. Looking a little bit ahead to February, we do have small plans. We will always be putting more in. So again, the closer we are to a release, the more complete it looks, the more we know about it. We do anticipate finishing up the evergreen work or working on it a little bit more for the February release. We do also have a LibCal integration that is coming. So if you use the events integration from Library Market, this LibCal integration will work largely the same way. The way this kind of came about is we wanted to do this earlier. We wanted to do it last year, but we didn't actually LibCal. The API endpoints that we needed didn't exist. So last year they built all those API endpoints that we need. So now we just need to take advantage of them. And because they did that work for us, we want to, do the work on our side so that all of you can have that free integration if you have LibCal. We might, again, pending survey results, we might do some additional event stuff around here, but we'll also kind of see if between Library Market and LibCal, if that kind of gets most people in terms of getting events into Aspen, great. If we as a group decide we want to start to build some really basic events functionality into Aspen, that might be an option to start working on then too. The next is planning for e-commerce additions and enhancements. We've been hearing from a lot of people about wanting to maybe add some additional things. The one that always sticks in my mind is Square. We want support for Square, some additional e-commerce options. So we probably have tickets from a couple different libraries on that. So we'll be talking to you. So if you have ideas or things you want to work a little bit differently for e-commerce, please let us know or watch for those conversations that will be coming. And again, those are planning. So Aspen, a little bit more of, again, the further down this list we get, the more flexible it is, the more things are likely to change. But I want everybody to see we have a plan so you can react to it and say like, yes, please that, or we won't use that. No, thank you. That's part of the survey too. So additional e-commerce integrations, we'll be doing it depending on the planning. Diacritics are something that I think we'll be taking those off a little bit along the way. Diacritics are just complicated. I say that all the time and how they're done. So just continuing to make that language support better for Aspen. Again, depending on how planning goes, being able to share templates, content, languages, the survey results, and analyzing those will tell us exactly where we're going to start in terms of that ability to share content. And then the planning for LEDA to be available to Aspen partners. We're expecting that to come about and to be able to offer that. A lot of kind of redundant things down here, but still good to know that we're thinking about sharing for Aspen. We do have a project we know coming up in the middle of the year for Koha to Koha ILL, just for a couple libraries that need that. And these are things from the survey. So again, how quickly they come about will depend on our analysis of those results, but improved statistics, EBSCOhost integration, and then the events and calendars in addition to the LibCal integration that's planned for early next year. So that was a lot of me talking really quickly. Any thoughts, comments, concerns on the roadmap?
I want to make a general observation, which is something you mentioned spurred a thought as it relates to Cersei Dynex, which is that libraries want to get whatever free thing they can from their current, whatever they're paying for. So just keep adding things in because we'll get them for free.
That is our goal.
And Cersei Dynex has done this, and now they have a whole bunch of mediocre stuff. And I don't, I really don't want to see you guys repeat that. So with that idea of building event calendars, my perspective is do something and do it really, really well. So yes, definitely build plugs so that, a third party that does calendaring really well, like Library Calendar, that you can bring that stuff in. And now you've offered the community a feature that catalogs don't typically have. But please don't be like, just because everybody wants it for free, we're going to add it.
That's why we need your feedback. You can see with the events that we know that people like. I've worked with events in libraries. The needs can be really complex, and we have some vendors out there that do a great job. Even if we wanted to do it, it would take us a good amount of time to catch up. So we want to provide that integration because one of the goals of Aspen is to bring it all together. So if we can do the integration, great. And those libraries that can afford these amazing event systems, go for it, and we'll integrate and move forward. And then, for the things that we're doing, if we provide it in Aspen, it's going to be basic to start, and then based on your feedback, we'll build it up. So with Web Builder, you can go out and you can pay a lot of money and get an amazing website, and you can still get that indexed and added to Aspen. And then we're going to be building Web Builder over time based on your feedback. And if we decide to do events, again, it's going to be conversations with you. It would probably be working in the same way. Does that jive with what you're saying, Chanel, or am I missing an important point?
I'm saying that Cersei Dynex basically did the same thing, but they start that process and then suddenly they realize, oh, but libraries are asking for this other thing. And so they never finish the first thought, right?
Okay.
So you just end up with a whole bunch of mediocre apps.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why we came to Aspen is because you're really, really good at being a catalog. And I don't want to see that hurt by trying to become bigger and bigger and do more, do things that are way outside the needs of a catalog specifically.
That makes sense. And even with what you're saying, again, we haven't fully analyzed the survey results. There was more than I expected. There was support for things like facets and things like improvements to record grouping more than I even expected. So I think our goal, I hear what you're saying there, and our goal is to listen to you. And there's definitely, I'm seeing that same feedback. Keep making discovery better. And don't just do something because it's the fad. But yeah, I think what we're going to be doing is we really are trying to, and if we're not, let us know, listen to you and build based on what you're saying your needs are, and not just because it's kind of like out there and new and trendy. Yeah, but I think in some cases we probably will have something that's a little like, it's going to be driven by you. So web builder, starts small, gets bigger if you want it to get bigger, or it stays small because it's meeting your needs.
I think there's a lot of different types of partners in the room here. Where I might be looking at this as the only website I want to bother with in web builder and the only catalog and just kind of streamline everything that way. I realize that somewhere like Nashville is going to have a very different set of needs, and striking that balance, how do you make the product that works well? I know a competitor to Aspen out there, they wouldn't even talk to a library our size. And that's one of the reasons that attracted me and some other libraries I'm aware of. And so, thank you for trying to strike a balance with what you're doing. And hopefully, as we work together on the different bits of this that are relevant to our institutions, we can work together in a meaningful way and keep driving this thing forward.
Thanks, Sam. We are doing our best to. I think you hear the do both sides, and to Chanel's point too, keeping discovery working really well. We will let the other vendors do the advanced things with their software, and then provide that integration. Because Aspen as discovery, it's always going to be the place where you want to discover all of the things. Comments on general philosophy or things on the roadmap or anything else that's on your mind. I see there's a comment from Lauren at Click. I would say free calendar integration is very important to our libraries since they cannot afford library market, etc.
Jordan, can you scroll down a bit so we can see a little bit more?
Definitely. And again, our goal with the new software would be to make this available for you outside of these meetings too.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Hey, one thing, Jordan, that might be worth mentioning is that a lot of the ILSs are starting to integrate, like, okay, granted, Cersei Dynex maybe had some fitful starts, but there are other vendors, even Koha, that has some rudimentary calendaring features built into it. I don't have the best crystal ball, but I suspect that as you think of what modern libraries are and the community center role that many of the public type of libraries function in, that yeah, a lot of those other vendors they're gonna write software there, and Aspen's gonna want to talk to it. Anyway, thank you. End monologue.
Thanks, Sam.
Yeah. I think that's just the hardest thing with Aspen too, is like we are really doing a lot to balance all of the needs of all the different size libraries. Yeah, it is a challenge, but it's one that we have fun with, so it's cool. And all the international people and stuff too. We've got all kinds of cool opportunities and challenges that are all fun.
Exactly. And even with all the different ILSs, it's a challenge on our side because there's all these different ILSs. But one, we have an idea from one because one ILS does it. And then if we can build it into Aspen, then everyone kind of gets to benefit from that idea. Scroll up one more time. Kind of make sure these all get on the screen. Anything else? Okay. So look forward to sharing those survey results when we can. And I will hand it back over to Morgan.
Awesome. Thank you, Gordon, and really good discussion, everyone. I love it we all love it when you participate in the discussion. So we really love hearing your feedback. Next on the agenda is another really super exciting thing that I'm going to let Mark talk about. It's about Bywater hiring.
Yeah. So today, so Cal is going to join us. She's moving from her role as marketing and outreach into being an implementation specialist for Bywater. So you'll be seeing more of her setting up users and doing training and that kind of thing. So go ahead, Cal.
Yeah, I answered my first ticket today, so you might see like me responding to tickets. So, I mean, I already was like involved with the community, and it just sort of seemed like a natural progression. So I'm really excited to work even more closely with everyone. So
we're all really excited to have her joining us in this way. So it's very cool. And then we do also still have another support role open. So we keep growing. So we've got a role open on the site for a support analyst person that we'll be hiring over the course of the next month or so. So try to get them in as soon as we can to help with all of the tickets and get those all answered. So I think that's it, unless anybody has any questions on that.
Oh, let's all cheer for Cal again because we're so
Yeah.
excited for her. Yay, Cal! She's amazing. All right. So the last point of discussion, we only have like 10 minutes left, is discussion ideas for the new year. So I know that, or at least I'm told, at the beginning of last year, there was more involvement of people presenting like what they're doing with Aspen or how to do certain things. And we just kind of wanted to take the temperature again and see if anyone has any new things they're working on or ideas that they would potentially want to present on or share at an Aspen gathering. What are your thoughts? Is anyone jumping at the chance to share something?
or can I add, is there anything else at the gathering, keeping in mind that we're going to use 15 minutes now in the next year for the Aspen updates in an instant? Is there anything else that you would like to see during this time that we haven't been doing this year?
So like when we started the gathering, we had people doing like, here's show and tell and some of the placards we've created. And like Jonathan at Arlington showed us the beautiful placards he made. And a whole bunch of people like now are using that style of placards. Is there more show and tell we want that people are wanting to do?
Could be that maybe some of those needs would be met by like a resource sharing depository. Lauren from Click says, in a few months, I can share how our implementation of Aspen for 23 Department of Corrections libraries are going. Yeah.
I mean, I think that this is premature, and I don't know if this is going to work, but you know, we've started just little baby steps to experiment with Aspen as you know, sort of kiosk display for our shelf ends. But we just started, so if we can actually make that work, we would probably want to show that off, you know. But we're not. We're just starting.
Well, we should make a note of that because that sounds amazing. Like whenever you get that going, we would love to see it. And I'm sure our other partners would too. That's super cool. Yeah, more speaking to Cal's point too, is there anything else that you wish that you could be getting out of these Aspen gatherings that we haven't been doing? Or are we meeting your every need and desire? We've all got holiday brain already. Everyone's just done.
I just say I'm excited to see more of the sort of looking at the roadmap ahead, and that's always really helpful to see what y'all have your eyes on and to hear what everyone the requests and needs of the other members is also super helpful.
Sarah? I think that's a really good addition to Aspen Gathering. So we're super happy that Jordan can speak to the roadmap stuff.
Can anyone think of a good way that we can like self-identify some special interest type groups? Like we're always trying to push the boundaries with what we can do with Aspen in terms of local history and uploading stuff and probably using it in ways that it wasn't intended to. And Mark's like, ah, crap, now I got to develop this thing for Sam because he doesn't want to pay for a digital repository because he's cheap. But anyway, um, you know, if there's a good way that like, hey, we're working on this little niche of things, and I know that maybe others aren't as interested in calendar integrations as I might be, what's a good way to just be like, hey, look, is that a Slack channel? Is it a like who can we call that does this kind of stuff, short of putting in a ticket and a bit more than just a general call out to all of the Aspen users, hey, who can help with this? Anyway.
Did Polly start a Slack channel on that, Sam? And we'd be curious too, because we're just starting to look into some digitization projects. But we also have a state library that's very helpful with local history stuff and getting it into content DM. But yeah, and our e-resources advisory person, Robin, who's here, could probably answer a lot of questions. They're super knowledgeable.
I just want to jump in and defend myself for a second. I'm hugely in favor of integrations. Love the idea of integrations. I just don't necessarily want one company to solve every library problem there is in the world. That's all.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I was going to say we've started using Omeka for things, and we've got it fairly well tied in right now. And that's I see us doing a lot more of that within the next year and a half.
For these special topics, I can definitely see them starting as Slack groups. And then as soon as you want to meet, let us know. And if you don't have a Zoom or whatever, we can set it up for you. But that sounds like the perfect thing for the community to say, we want a special interest group on events. Or and some of it might start off here. If we're talking features, we're definitely all going to be talking together. But if it's more along the lines of, this is how I integrated my digital content or what I'm doing with digital content, I think like a special interest group from the community is the perfect place for that.
Would it be helpful? Like we could tackle some of those little topics here if we wanted to. So if either at that community that you're doing every other month or here, if we wanted to dedicate 15 minutes or something to, let's talk digital archives in January, and let's talk events in February, and let's talk whatever in March. Like,
for me, part of what I'm looking for, and if there's anyone else out there, that'd be cool too, is kind of workshopping some ideas around, or going through, like, don't want to make everyone sit through the, hey, I have a really ambitious and amazing staff member who just created 2,300 cover images for our archival files and uploaded those, and they look cool, but in doing so, it pushed out the name of those. It's just an image of a cover. They all look like newspaper articles. And so now when people browse, they don't, anyway, that kind of stuff, which, could turn into a ticket, but yeah. And the whole room here probably doesn't all care or need to. But if you're like Pueblo or some of the other areas, they're doing this all the time, there you have it.
So maybe some just short little special interest groups that I think as Bywater, we'd be happy to support those with. We're happy to set up a Zoom room and send somebody to listen to ideas and issues.
I think you have your first agenda item on your next community meeting.
Yeah.
We'd love it if you just came as a group of however many, 5 or 10 of you, and said, this is what we want. Like, that's our dream scenario.
All righty. All right. After budgets, I will, get with some other people. Get with me, people. Sign my whiteboard so we can have a club, and then we'll get one of the teachers to sponsor us.
Sounds amazing. I'm really excited to hear what you guys come up with. Any more? I know we're like 2 minutes till the hour. Are there any more comments
Well-
or ideas?
So I'd like to speak up, and since it's the end of the year, we're coming up on 2022 now. I'd really like to thank each and every one of you all of our partner libraries. You have made us better on Aspen Discovery. All your ideas, everything. Y'all are amazing, and y'all are helping us to make Aspen better. Also like to throw it over to Jesse to kind of let you know some of the things we're doing, to kind of as appreciation and a thank you for the end of the year.
Yeah, you'll see an email coming out in the next couple weeks or so, but we'll be planting some trees in honor of all of our partners and the amazing things that y'all are doing this year. So we can't thank you enough. We're so happy to be part of all these open source communities that we support, and Aspen is just growing so fast, and it's amazing to watch everything that y'all are doing. So we can't say thank you enough.
Thanks so much, Bill and Jesse. We're gonna have lots more trees. Exciting. I think, yeah, we're right at 5 o'clock. So I think that is a good heartwarming place to end this Aspen gathering, the last one of 2021. So just on behalf of all of us, I want to thank you so much for showing up this month. We hope that you have a happy holiday season, and we are so looking forward to an amazing 2022. So thanks for coming, everyone. Have a good day.
Hey, thanks.
Thank you.
Happy
Bye.
holidays.